I call to order this February 26, 2024 School Board Workshop. Okay, board members, tonight we'll start with the approval of the agenda, and we have 3 changes. Under Human Resources, 8.9, 8.10, 8.11 will all be deleted, and we'll note that as we go through. So I'm going to continue with the agenda. If you have any questions or have any comments, just holler out and we'll do it. All right, so after the approval of the agenda, we're going to have a recognition tonight, always the best part of our meetings. And tonight on 3.1, we will be recognizing the Choctawhatchee High School Indianettes dance team. They are state champions at the 2024 Universal Dance Association Florida Champions Varsity Game Day Division. And Mr. Chambers will be presenting them with something tonight, so that's exciting. Okay, and under 4 administrative personnel appointments, we are going to be having an appointment of Assistant Principal 2, a 10-month, at Lewis School, recommended by Superintendent Chambers.
See, that was just sent to us this morning.
Yes, the name was sent to us. All right, 5 is public comment. Of course, we don't know that, but that is the blue card. I want to remind everyone they need to come and fill out a blue card if they want to speak to us about agenda items only. That's 5.1. On 6, committee and staff reports. 6.1 is in-county travel paid for January 2024, presented by Ms. Julie Perry. 6.2, out-of-county travel paid for January 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. 6.3, risk management and insurance program update, presented by Russ Frakes, who's the program director of risk management. And Mr. Frakes, good to see you.
Good morning.
I hope you have some great news for us.
Well, I will try.
Thank you.
Good morning to the board, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just a quick update on what's going on with the risk management program. We've met, of course, as we do each quarter with the Florida School Boards Insurance Trust here for our winter meetings. And just to remind everyone, go ahead and fire up a presentation here, share some slides with you. As a review, the Florida School Boards Insurance Trust is the organization where we get all of our insurance. They provide us with risk control services. They have a staff of adjusters that provide administrative services for all of our claims, workers' compensation claims, to everything from that to bus accidents and things like that, liability claims as well. So they also provide us with access to markets so that we have more options, places where we can go get insurance. So that just want to make sure that everyone is understanding when we talk about FSBIT, that's what it is. And I'll talk today just real quickly about just as far as a market overview, take a little bit different view of this. Much of the same news exists in the insurance market as has for the past couple of years, and it's been a challenging market, certainly. We look at some of the disruptors. What are those things that are causing the market conditions that we're in now? What we're seeing, and you can look at anything, dive down, do a little bit deeper dive, and look at everything from the cost of vehicles, the increased technology in vehicles, which of course, if you're involved in a rear end accident, or have some front end damage, all the sensors that are in those vehicles now increases the cost of repairs. Medical inflation increases the cost of workers' compensation claims. Aging workforce increases, and we get a little bit older, it takes a little bit more to get us back on the road. So in general liability, you've got have had many catastrophic losses where you're seeing awards, jury awards that are unprecedented at times. So and that's just something that's kind of that social inflation factor that's leading to increased costs, and all of those things make it a little bit more difficult to get insurance and a little more expensive. The current property renewal is pending. We're in the process of making decisions now. There's some meetings upcoming, so a lot of decisions still to be made. But I think we're positioning ourselves well. And just to review very quickly, last year at this time we were talking about some new strategies. We all learned about the community weighted industry loss product that we actually wound up accepting, employed that in the trust to fill in, and just to kind of gauge this, and we'll look just quickly at it in just a second here at the structure of all the policies that make up the coverage that's provided by the trust. But that program went from over 200, was a $250 million program the previous year, went down to $100 million. That was all the coverage that was out there and available. It was very difficult to get coverage. And it went down from 250, so less than half of the coverage still costs 56% more increase in price. So you're paying more for less, and that's been the order of the day for the entire industry. And you'll see this if you open your mailbox and see that renewal for your homeowners insurance. You're probably you're seeing some of that same news there. It's impacting everyone. Our total insured values have gone up. Of course, we've added some new square footage, worked closely with Dr. Smith's office to make sure that we had that as accurate as we possibly can. So it went up from a little over $1 billion now, 1.1. And again, so we'll look at some alternative insurance products here for the upcoming renewal cycle. That Quill product again is in play. Certainly, the $5 million that was deployed by the trust, that's trust money, those reserves that are put rather than, if we see this block, and there's a lot of information here, but just if you'll just notice those red blocks, that's money, was FSBIT dollars that were put at risk essentially above $25 million. Those are insurance contracts and treaties that didn't have to go into place. So that saved those dollars, those premium dollars. Of course, were there to be a hurricane or a storm that went by that $25 million threshold, that money would have been gone, and it would have had to have been reloaded potentially were there another storm. So it was not without risk, but it paid off this year. It does not look like that will have been impacted. There is still a storm out there with Adelia that's being processed, but it looks like it's going to be a little below that $25 million primary layer. So these are the kinds of decisions that are being made currently. But all of these challenges that we're looking at, it kind of underscores the need, of course, for a strong risk management program. We do that each year, or each quarter, I should say, as we put together the meetings that we have, the subject matter that we review. A lot of new risk managers in our trust at this point. There's been a lot of turnover, so we're looking at ensuring that all of the trust members have the best information available, and that we provide training to all the risk managers and bring that level of knowledge up, the skill level up. So we looked at some very interesting topics this past meeting. Spoke in depth about the ESC classroom, the challenges that are present there. Terry Harmon made an excellent presentation. He's helped us out many times. Brent Palmer, who's an attorney that has represented us in several cases, went in depth on really the medical aspects, the technical aspects of defending rear-end accidents and all that's involved there. And then we had a very interesting panel discussion with those attorneys and one of our risk managers from St. Johns County, Amanda Gumbel, and our adjuster, C.J. Holly from FSBIT, that did a panel discussion on alternative dispute resolution and mediation, because, again, with those newer risk managers, may not have ever gone through a mediation process. There's a lot of dollars that can be at stake there, so they need to understand how that process works, how to best, and the strategies that you can employ to get a better outcome. And then Dave Delaney, another attorney that we've worked with in the past, spoke and had some very interesting information, very helpful discussion about spoliation of evidence, making sure that you're documenting a lot of video. There's a lot of video footage out there these days. That's something that's very prevalent. So just how you can approach and navigate that element. So some excellent information was shared there. Also, the financial audit came through with the accountants that look at the trust, look at all the financials, the claims history, et cetera. Conclusion, the short form of that conclusion was that the financial strength of the trust remains. It is very, very good position. More than 2-to-1 ratio still in place. In other words, all those liabilities that could potentially have to be paid, the trust has more than $2 per dollar of potential exposure. Hurricane Adelia and Ian are ongoing. Some excellent information there with our Emergency Advantage company that helps. They were the boots on the ground folks that came in and helped with the remediation of those schools that were impacted in both of those storms. there's a new adjusting firm, McLaren's, that's come into play, and they're working closely with EA. And also the FEMA consultants. That is a big component of that post-storm, navigating FEMA and all that's involved there, and getting some of those dollars back in. It can be a very complicated process. So we were happy to be able to have those FEMA consultants come in and establish a better relationship with them, a good working relationship with them, so that we know where we can go when we need those services.
If I can ask Russ a question real quick, or just so Emergency Advantage, can you tell us a little bit about, of course, I've
Sure.
heard all about it.
Yes.
They're a great partner with us.
Yes, Emergency Advantage is an organization. It's a what's termed a preposition contract. So they are an entity that will go up. So when, for instance, I'll just talk about the examples here. When both Ian and Adelia were approaching, they were in close communication with FSBIT and those districts that were in the path of the storm, and had trucks, equipment, people setting outside the path of the storm, waiting for the storm to pass, so that within I think it was within 24 hours of Ian passing in Charlotte County, they had some 600 people there on the ground working huge trucks with drying equipment and just getting the water out of the buildings to save them. And they were able to saved millions of dollars because of that, because they were able to react very quickly. So very important services they provide. They work in conjunction with those other folks that you may have in place, your local remediation folks, but they can be overwhelmed easily. So they bring a lot of resources to bear, and help tremendously with the financial component of it. They extended a lot of the financial resources to be able to get that work done immediately, that enabled both of those districts to open as quickly as they did.
I think with the governor's push to get these
Yes.
schools open, especially during Ian, to get them open within the week after the storm hit.
Yes.
Charlotte and DeSoto, which are part of our trust, were far ahead than Lee and Collier, and I believe Sarasota was another that was kind of hit hard too. So.
That factor alone, I think, has really. I think it's got a lot of attention for FSBIT with other folks, other counties, other districts in the state. Unfortunately, we're not able to, the trust is not able to accommodate all those that want to come in at this point, just because the other issues that we talked about with the availability of insurance. There's not enough insurance to go around for us to bring everybody in, but there is definitely a lot of interest, especially seeing those results, and that information is shared. FSBA meetings and things like that, folks talk and understand just what experience, they see the difference between those that are in FSBIT and those that are not. And so we've got a lot of folks that are knocking on the door wanting to come in at this point. So great point, and happy to talk about that. I would say we have our typical committee meetings. Vector Solutions, our online training platform that we have. We see there our July through December trainings, a little over 6,000. Although with that email, I believe we had from Mr. Mitchell the other day, I think we'll see that go up. So happy to see that. So that's an excellent tool that we have access to, and helps us get better outcomes as well.
So, Mr. Frakes, real quick,
Yes.
if you can go back.
Mm-hmm.
So, committee meetings. So,
Yes.
claims review is something that we just started
Yes.
over the past year.
Correct.
And can you explain a little bit why we did that?
Sure.
More to be good stewards to the trust, of course, but what does
Absolutely.
it accomplish?
Absolutely. So it's really as Mr. Bryant pointed out, a brand new committee chaired by Amanda Gumbel, who's risk manager in St. Johns County. I work pretty closely with her. It's a big committee staffed mostly by risk managers, though we do have Mr. Bryant serves on that committee as well. And we really take a deep dive and really look at the data trust-wide, what's going on on the workers' compensation side. And we've actually kind of started a process where we've kind of focused on workers' compensation related to ESE exposures, and then those that are not, to try to kind of divide and conquer. We've got a lot of folks involved there, and then we look at our general liability claims and our auto claims, bus accidents and the like, and try to come up with some recommendations for our trust members, some best practices to employ to try to get better outcomes. And one of the things that we're looking at, we'll be looking at, and I would imagine will take probably the next 12 to 24 months, is windstorm mitigation and management, emergency management operations. How that can be used based on lessons learned from Ian and Adelia. So a lot of information coming out of those, and that the Claims Review Committee has been pushing forward. So. It's a great new committee, and I think it's adding a lot, bringing a lot to the table. Some Okaloosa County School District initiatives that are going on the risk management front that I have to share with you today. We've got our CPSI training that's taking place in April. So that is a certified playground safety inspection training. Mr. Rick Patrick is going to represent Okaloosa County Schools. He's going over there to take that course, and that will provide us with a staff inspector that can have that ability, have that skill set, so that we can make sure that our playgrounds are compliant and as safe as they possibly can. So I'm excited that we'll have somebody here and on staff. FSBIT served that role for us, but now having one, FSBIT is extending that offer to train folks in the member districts, and we're taking advantage of that. So we're happy to see Mr. Patrick going and doing so. We're partnering with our ESE department. Looking at this stealthware is something we became aware of through some of our meetings. In fact, some defensive clothing that's pretty low profile that can help with injuries that we're seeing with greater prevalence in our staff, our ESE staff. So we're going to do a pilot program with that. So we're looking at deploying those stealthware sleeves here in the upcoming weeks. So we'll see how that goes, and look forward to seeing some a little bit more innovative approach there, and see if we can get a better result. KHA Safety Data Sheet Management Platform is something we're deploying as well. Working on that, we're in the initial phases. That will provide us with a means of administering safety data sheets for custodial services, just managing all the chemicals that we have. And you can imagine the number of chemicals that we have on hand in the district. Safety data sheets are something that may sit in a binder in a front office. Sometimes it's difficult to keep those up to date. We need to. You can imagine if you have a fire, that's where first responders are going to want to see what's in, and that can dictate what they're able to use as far as fire suppression systems are concerned. So we're happy to have that as well. So, and I would say one thing, as I'm looking at this list of things here that I'm sharing with you, all of those were funded by FSBIT and the risk management program dollars that we have available to us there. So happy to be able to do that and partner with FSBIT to make these things happen in our district and really kind of bolster our abilities as far as risk management is concerned. That brings us to the end. Any questions from anyone?
So no questions, but comments. Colleagues, first of all, it's always an honor to represent our school district with FSBIT and being the trustee. Mr. Chambers, thank you for giving Mr. Frakes and his team the ability to make risk management part of our everyday operation experience. It is the one department within the school district that controlling the costs is a good thing if we can put that money back into the school district.
Absolutely.
And I just am really proud of our district, of what we've accomplished. Again, we do have more opportunities down there. I know that you noticed Vector down there. And
yeah.
These are things that we have as part of FSBIT to help us to be one, to work safer, to be more aware of our surroundings and things like that. But I will tell you, colleagues, it is, he was talking about a lot of transition right now within the FSBIT. We do have a new executive director that's coming on, who was the previous superintendent of Okeechobee schools. But we do have a lot of risk managers that not because of risk managers leaving because they're burnt out, they're all retiring.
Yeah.
So we have people that are moving up, and I think we had about at least four new risk managers this go around.
That's right.
So a lot of new faces.
That's right. A lot of new faces.
And some new trustees in there as
That's
well.
correct.
So, but Mr. Chambers, I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to Russ and his team for all that they do.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Frakes, always good information.
Thank you.
And so, it's so complex, and so much that you make it very clear, and I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to section 7, which will be the consent agenda. 7.1 will have the approval, and remember, there are the 3 deletions. All right, 7.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of February 12th, 2024, the minutes of the regular meeting of February 12th, 2024, and that's recommended by the superintendent. 7.3, appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Okaloosa STEM Academy for library shelves, bookshelves, in the amount of $4,985, presented by Dr. White, recommended by the superintendent. 7.4, appropriation of District 3 School Board member capital outlay funds to Silver Sand School for a hydraulic lift in the amount of $589.05, presented by me, Lindy Vancheck, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.5, budget amendment number 5, fiscal year 2023-24, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.6, monthly financial statement for January 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.7, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.8, school donations, presented by Ms. Perry. One thing I wanted to point about that, we always appreciate donations, but I was looking at that list, and I noticed where a local organization paid off student lunch bills. And I'm sure we've had that before, but that really touched me that they would come through and do that. That's so meaningful.
Well, I noticed back in December, we had a person that came into Wright Elementary and paid a large amount, and so we're seeing that more and greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
At these schools, that these lunch balances are being paid off.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a church in Crestview that will do that at the end of the year. They'll usually pay off
Yeah,
all the.
terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, 7.9, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register totaling $31,246,785.19. Self-health insurance claims and fees totaling $2,425,460.91. And bank transfers totaling $70 million for January 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. Those are some big numbers. Okay, 7.10, authorization to appropriate federal impact aid funds. This is payment 3 for 2023, and make a payment in the amount of $1,000 to charter schools, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.11, renewal of ITB 23-05 lattice service for portables, presented by Mr. Wyndham. 7.12, tag-on bid purchase over $25,000, Howard Technology, presented by Mr. Wyndham. 7.13, renewal of tag-on bid MTS-906BC, playgrounds and related equipment, presented by Mr. Wyndham. 7.14, service agreement number 24-118, Emerald Coast Science Center plant dissection, presented by Mr. Wyndham. 7.15, sale and disposal of surplus property, presented by Mr. Bolton. 7.16, agreement to grant a water tank site and 20-foot wide ingress and egress easement to the city of Crestview, presented by Dr. Smith, Program Director of Facilities Planning. I'm assuming that's because so much building up in Crestview, we need a water tank, right? That's what I'm assuming. Yeah, new school site. Great, okay. All right. 7.17, contract agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and Northwest Florida State College for the 2024-25 school year, acknowledging the Collegiate High School Program 24-25, presented by Ms. Barron, Director 1, Curriculum and Instruction. Okay. 7.18, Career and Technical Education, CTE, Course Code Adoption for the 2024-25 school year, presented by Stephanie Gillis, Specialist Curriculum and Instruction. 7.19, no-cost contract extension with the University of Florida for services outlined in the Artificial Intelligence Institute's grant funded by Triumph Gulf Coast, presented by Ms. Horton, Program Administrator, CTE. 7.20, approval of 23-24 class size plan, presented by Mr. Horton. Okay, we move on down to section 8.
May I say something, go back to 7 point, the service agreement, Emerald Coast Science Center. I just wanted to make note that that agreement is allowing all third graders in Okaloosa County to have a hands-on experience with plant dissection. And I just thought this was kind of cool that this is a service agreement. We do work very closely with the Emerald Coast Science Center, and I appreciate Tammy Ellis and her group for providing this opportunity for every third grader. I think I saw 2,400 students, yes, third grade students that will be able to participate. So I didn't want to interrupt you as you went through,
No,
so I was
that's
waiting till the
fine.
end.
No, that's good.
Thanks.
No, that is, we've
No,
worked real well with them.
We do, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our students to pique that interest.
Okay, all right. Anything else on that one? All right, so we're moving on to Section 8, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. 8.1, information only, employees on administrative leave, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.2, information only, deferred retirement option program, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.3, employment separations, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.4, request to double fill the position of Program Director, Career and Technical Education Department, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.5, personnel recommendations, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.6, employee transfers, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.7, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.8, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.9 has been deleted. 8.10 has been deleted. 8.11 has been deleted. 8.12, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.13, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Hale. Okay, all right. That takes us to discussion agenda, which we do not have any at this time. Then to section 10, construction program owners representatives business. Dr. Kelly, anything there?
Nothing right now, but we will meet after this meeting, and I should have a report later.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 11, section 11, attorney's business. Mr. McGinnis? All right, thank you. Okay, then we head to the superintendent's business. All right, Mr. Chambers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a few items I want to share that have a couple folks also come forward. I want to start off by saying last week, myself and Dr. Kelly had the privilege of going to the science fair. And you can imagine it's so interesting. Let me start over. So Dr. Kelly and I had the pleasure to go to the science fair last week. And you look at the number of projects that's occurring across the district. It's incredible to look at the sophistication of the types of projects these students are taking part in. And I was sitting there thinking as these students were coming forward, the types of science fair projects that I did when I was younger. And I made a comment that I used to go to my go-to every year, and it was creating constellations with the toothpicks and the styrofoam balls. And these students are looking at how to make homes more affordable through ways to make the home more energy efficient. So you look at that to what maybe some folks did back in the day, but just amazing. It was well organized. It was a great event, and just very thankful to all who put it on, and just thankful to our teachers for continuing to take our students through the science fair process. Also, as you can imagine, to have a science fair, there's a lot of community support that's needed. And the amount of community interest in the science fair is something that I think we all appreciate. A number of scholarships were given out that night, and just cash awards just in general. So when students, a sixth grader, saw that they were getting $75, you would have thought maybe they were getting $5,000. And it was just something nice to see. But a lot of cash awards, scholarships, and then just, of course, the experience to go through that process. Do want to let the board know that, just to keep you up to date, we're still in the budgeting process for the 2024-2025 year. And we've been working for several months on what next year will look like. We do have Ms. Floyd, who will be setting up your one-on-one meetings where we'll go through exactly where we are. As you know, the governor has already put out the budget, as well as the Senate and the House. In this month of March coming up, it'll be finalized, and then Ms. Perry will put her formula in action. But we will come to you with a balanced budget, as we always do. But I will share that this will be a challenging year. This will be a little bit of a more different year as it pertains to the budget. We will do a good job of course, bringing you a budget, again, that is balanced, but there will be some challenges that we will be going through. And I'll share that with you. And of course, Mrs. Perry, she does a good job every year of not only looking at the budget that comes down, but looking at just where we are financially. And she's always kept us in a strong financial position, so that's something that I absolutely appreciate. Also, last week we had a ribbon cutting at Fort Walton Beach High School. Miss Lindsay Smith did an outstanding job, and it was the ribbon cutting for a multi-purpose building. And one of the things I really appreciated was the emphasis on multi-purpose. And not only will it serve, our athletic teams, but it'll serve cheer, dance, ROTC, CTE in terms of robotics, testing, homecomings, and so much more. So it's very nice to see the community come out and support that. We had Mr. Ted Corcoran, who was there, and one of the initiators to help us get the half-cent sales tax, that grassroots effort. We also had Mayor Rynierson there and several others, but it was just it was a great event, and Fort Walton Beach High School, not only did they do a good job, but more importantly, they're gaining a fantastic facility. February is CTE month. And just want to share just a little bit of information, as you already know some of this, but some of it might also pique your interest. As you already know, we have 19 different CTE programs across this school district. And one of the things that we've done under the leadership of Ms. Branscombe and her team is we've tried to make sure that the CTE programs that we have can filter straight into our local industry. So that's something when you look at, we have Boeing, we have the Eglin, we have the building industry here. There's so many different areas where we tie in to the local business industry. So that's been something that we've tried to accomplish. We have 8,192 students enrolled in CTE courses. Now, some of them might take 2 courses, but in essence, we have 8,192. That's approximately 54% of our students taking part in CTE type courses. I can think back to when I was in middle school, and I remember I made a nice aluminum plate, whereas these students are doing artificial intelligence. They're on the building industry side. They're actually building structures. So it's just, it's amazing to see what these students are doing. In the past, since 2021, our CTE department has been able to access over $10.5 million in grants. So not only do we get the funding that we get for career and technical education, but they've been very aggressive in going out with different projects. So $10.5 million. We have 20,436 certifications earned since 2007. So you think about the opportunities that provides our students. And just 2 examples. So tomorrow we'll be going to Destin Elementary, where we'll have a ribbon cutting with their new AI program. And as you know, the current AI program that we have are in our middle schools, as well as Crestview and Choctaw. But we said from the beginning that this was going to be an elementary through high school pipeline, which also hopefully will lead to the industry. So now we're bringing on our first elementary school. There will be others to come. And then I also want to highlight on the career and technical education side, Fort Walton Beach High School's engineering class. We've talked a little bit about the class that came together to help a student at another elementary school. And that elementary student received that motorized vehicle last week. They said if you were there, tears were shed because this young person was able to now move around in a different way. So it was just a blessing. But going back to the CTE program that took a vehicle that re-engineered it to make a difference for the student. So CTE is prevalent in our schools. It's a major part of what we do, and just couldn't be more proud to have the programs that we have here in our school district. And I have a few other things, but you might have some comments on career and technical education as well.
I think what we're doing is fantastic, and like you said, it's gone so quickly from the. Sorry, we're getting used to turning our buttons on. It's gone so far from that aluminum plate you've done, and what we all remember is the birdhouses or whatever, up, and we're starting so much younger, and it's exciting because it is going to help our community, and it's just amazing what we've been able to do, and I appreciate Ms. Ranscom and everybody that's in that, because CTE is the way, and I know the governor has said he wants Florida to be #1, and I think Okaloosa County is leading the way, and that's exciting. So, other comments?
If I might, Ms.
Sorry.
Ivanchik. So 2 thoughts come to my mind. One is fulfilling an obligation to our community to provide for them future labor force for the markets. So I think that's very exciting for our students who leave there with those skills to obtain a job. But secondly, that our students in AI particularly are on that cutting edge, and not just in order to propose to the community their skills in that arena, but in order to have a layer of protection and to understand the risk that are involved there. So to me, that's an equal balance with AI. So I'm just very pleased that we have these in our schools. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Chambers, you read some of my notes, but I just want to, and I'm going to wait till tonight to kind of go more in depth on this, and you'll see why, but had read something from a student, and it just validates exactly what you said. That's something that the student piqued their interest in elementary and how they took it on to high school, and now what they're going to do with it. But I'll share that later tonight. But we're really seeing the fruits of what our teachers, this community, and what everybody's doing. But I'll save that. But it does validate exactly what you said, supports it.
Well, and I'll echo what Dr. Kelly just said about the investment that we put into the school district when it comes to career technical. I'm on, right? Okay. Am I good?
Yeah,
Okay. Lost my train of thought. But anyways, what's exciting is to hear that number, about 54% of our students. And then if you look at people that are in the workforce today, it's about 65% who basically went from high school, got certifications, and went right into the workforce. So that kind of lines up with the national averages. But what's even more exciting is talk about being the leaders. Now we're going to expand our technical college up on the north end, which is going to provide more opportunities for not only just our students, but for adults that are going to maybe make career changes and go into these fields with when it comes to computers and artificial intelligence. And, it's amazing to see how much over the last couple of years artificial intelligence has really captivated our nation, but it's really been around for a while. It's just now really starting to take grip, and to see elementary kids getting involved in it is the right thing to do, because that's going to be the norm for them moving forward. And we have to remember that what was the norm for us, that aluminum plate, is not the norm for these students now. They are a lot more in depth with technology, and I'm so thankful that as a district and as a board, we've made that commitment to embracing CTE. So.
And I love we've made that commitment starting in elementary. Like you said, tomorrow we'll be at Destin Elementary. This student right here mentioned elementary, and that's where it piqued their interest and to continue through high school.
And I appreciate those words. And you think about artificial intelligence and machine learning, the nursing program, welding, cybersecurity, building trades, and then the list goes on. These are sophisticated programs and very difficult certifications that students are passing and passing at an excellent rate. So just very much appreciate Mrs. Branscombe and her team for what they do, just leaders in this area. Do want to share with the board on March 12th, we will have our career fair. And you know we've annually done this, but the state of Florida has passed a new requirement that in essence says that high schools have to have a career fair during the school day. We've always had ours on a Saturday, so we'll make that transition. But the south end of the county, they will have the career fair that day at Beachside Community Church. And at the north end of the county, it will be held at Crestview High School. We do have over 50 businesses, and by businesses, those are colleges that will be in attendance, so it's very well supported by our local industry as well. And of course, this is just a great opportunity for students to not only become more aware of opportunities, but also literally to receive jobs. Mm-hmm. So just very much appreciate the community coming out and supporting that.
Can I interrupt and just say that the Public Schools Foundation is holding that up and organizing all that, and we've done it in the past, but we couldn't, I don't think our district, I mean, it's great that the foundation can do that. Those people in the foundation, of course, Debbie Tate and the others who do that really help us out in getting that organized.
And we couldn't do it without the help of the Public Schools Foundation.
And being during the day, I'm guessing there will be buses provided for the students to.
Yes, ma'am.
Back and forth. Perfect.
Also, I want to let the board know, Mrs. Floyd will be getting with you, and she'll be scheduling some events that will be taking place, and we will be going out to our high schools, and we'll be meeting with our students, some of our upperclassmen, and we'll be talking to them about their experience through just their journey in Okaloosa schools, getting some input, some suggestions, what's going well, what they would like to see even maybe be different in terms of opportunities. So we'll be doing that over the next couple months. So you'll be scheduled for the area that you serve. Okay.
Love those. Love that.
And at this time, if Ms. Lightbourne, if you'd come forward. And I just want Mrs. Lightbourne just to talk a little bit about, it's almost testing season, and not a testing date, testing season. That's coming forward. Also, Mrs. Lightbourne and her group with the schools, they have the second semester push. I want her just to share just a little bit about that. And then afterwards, Mr. Gore is going to share where we are on the science textbook adoption.
So at our last principals meeting, we did do 45 days Okaloosa's on fire in a good way, ignite learning. But there was 45 days from the principal meeting to the first day of PM2. That's without writing assessment and field days and all of those things. So you could eliminate some other days and you'd see how many days are really left of instruction leading to the first day of the PM3 assessment. So it was make sure we understand that, make sure your faculty understands that, and calendar out how to get to the end, how to make sure that we're covering all of our material. So just to give you a preview of testing, April 1st through the 5th is when writing testing will be. So we will actually begin writing, and remember, all of writing is computerized this year. So all of our students will be doing that on their computers. Makeups for that are 8th through the 12th. Then there's a little bit of a break in there, and then we come back, and May 1st, we begin PM3. So May 1st through the 10th is reading and math, 3 through 10, 3 through 8. And then we have makeup days, 13th to the 24th. But during that time period, we also have the science assessment, which is grades 5 and 8 in biology. That's the 6th through the 16th in May. And then the 1st through the 24th are all of the high school EOCs, geometry, algebra, U.S. history, biology, and civics. So starting April 1st, we start testing, and we have maybe a few weeks in there before we hit into the other tests. And then also in May, we have AP tests, IB tests, ACE tests. So those are all on top of the state assessments. So it's almost testing season.
Ms. Lightbourne, you were mentioning about writing testing on
Yes,
a
sir.
computer. Can you explain how students are taking that test for writing skills on it? Are they using a tablet? How are they taking that test?
So it's on the Chromebook.
Okay.
They'll have passages that they will have to read, and then there'll be a prompt that they will have to write to.
Okay.
And it'll all be on their Chromebooks.
Okay, so this again goes back to talking about mindsets. Me thinking piece of paper, Chromebook, writing it, but they're still using writing skills, so it's just on a
Absolutely.
Chromebook,
Yes, sir.
not on a piece of paper.
Correct.
And I'm
Correct.
sure they're practicing on the Chromebooks as they did with paper and pencil years past when we would do that. They're having all that experience right now.
So all
also.
assessments are on the Chromebook this year. So even their math assessments, just they have a scrap piece of paper to work out problems, but the way they have to put the numbers in, all of that is different and a challenge. So that has been practiced all year. Hopefully, that's what we have suggested. We have assessments through the curriculum department that are all online that are PM-like, as well as the textbook assessments that are online as well, that are PM-like.
And we start the writing test at what grade?
4th.
4th. Okay.
I think it worries us as adults, but the kids are like, we got this. I mean, they are so accustomed to it that it doesn't bother them in a heartbeat.
I think so. The biggest thing I think that we had to teach the kids is like, where's the punctuation? How do you do a space? Because they're used
'Cause
to
they
a
don't
phone
punctuate.
or an iPad, so it's different. They had to learn and not keyboarding skills, because they can hunt and peck just as fast as we can do this. So, but yeah, the punctuations and capitalizations and those things they had to was one of the challenges.
They're much more comfortable
teachers
than
have shared.
sometimes adults are.
Yep.
And the board will remember that, in essence, this is a new assessment that we're going into, and how many years have we done this writing assessment?
This is actually the first year. And again, this is a baseline year. So not sure what information we'll get back on this year's assessment. This is a baseline year. It is the first year. Last year, we had just certain schools that did it. And certain grade levels. It might not have even been an entire school. Now it's everyone, but it's still considered a baseline year.
And this writing is text-based, what they call text-based, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So
They'll
no
have
more
a passage or
persuasive or expository and all that, right?
well, it still could be that way, but it's based on the passages that
You
they
have
read.
to show where you found the
Correct.
evidence, right?
It's
Correct.
not just a silly sentence they have to
No,
write
You
off.
gotta write it out and explain where
Correct.
you got your answer. Yeah.
The camel, remember
The
the
camel,
camel?
I
Yeah.
remember the camel. Our little Florida children didn't quite understand the desert
ma'am.
camel.
They don't know about the camels.
No, it was crazy.
Thank you.
Mr. Gort? And again, I want Mr. Gore to come up, because every time we get into a textbook adoption time, just want to remind folks that it's very policy-driven, procedurally driven. As you remember, a couple of years ago, the state puts out books that you can look at, and then they come out in a later time period and say, these are the ones that you can purchase. So we went through that experience. Mr. Gore's done a great job making sure that we navigate that experience and that we're in good shape. But if you kind of share where we are and where we're going.
Sure, yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. When we came back from our Christmas break, our science textbook committees, which we built in the first semester, they began the hard work of reviewing publisher presentations and materials. And as Superintendent Chambers stated, we operate off the state of Florida's preliminary short bid list. Doesn't mean they have final approval yet, but those are the ones that they have been reviewing, and we have met and they have ranked them out. They have selected the top 2 publishers, and then they've ranked out the remaining publishers, should we have a similar issue that we did with math a couple of years ago. And so where we're currently at in the process is we have narrowed it down to our top 2 publishers. We've invited those publishers back to have a community kind of meet and greet night. Any parents, community members, teachers, they can come and meet those publishers and ask them any questions they may have. It'll be in this room on the 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. So all are welcome to come. We'd love for to have a big crowd show up. After that meeting, the schools will actually have their school voting process, and that's what will determine our number 1 and number 2. Once we have that process completed, those votes are due to me by March 13th. We're going to hit the pause button, and we're going to wait for the state of Florida to give us their final approved list. And once we have that final approved list and our rankings, we'll be coming back to you to request permission to advertise for a public hearing. And then that would have to be advertised for 20 days. And then we would come to you with a recommendation for adoption at that time. So, any questions for me on that process?
It's a big process that you have to go through, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It's a long process. It starts in October, November. We'll begin getting our committees together, requesting materials from publishers, scheduling presentations. So it is a year-long process, but we also don't like to rush it. We want the schools to have the materials they're happy with. So we try to give them plenty of time to evaluate them and vet them. So we have good quality materials because we have to live with them for 5 years, whatever we adopt. So.
And when you said the meet and greet is open to the public,
Yes, ma'am.
so does the public have some input on those books, or how does that work?
They can. We have a community feedback form that's out there. They can certainly submit those comments. And obviously, they're welcome to come to the public hearing also. But that form has been available since January, as well as all the materials that we've been evaluating. Those have been available on our website since January.
So all those, they can access all that online?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that they can see that and then make a comment? Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
So the public has input?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question for you, Mr. Gore. So you have this very precise timeline, which I know we appreciate as a board because we're going to make the final decision, and you pretty much have that timeline out. But you did mention the state of Florida is the ultimate,
Yes, sir.
authority that gives us the ability to vote on a curriculum for our students. Based on that timeline, are you expecting to see anything that might hinder us getting those books to those students on the first day of school?
So the chatter I hear, just anecdotal evidence, I don't foresee that happening. Last year, they provided us with that list where we were able to do that. Of course, then it comes down to publishers getting materials to the school book depository. The big wild card is after we have the adoption, it has to sit for 30 days. And that is really what compresses that timeline. I've kind of noted when the legislature, when they finish their session earlier, we seem to get the final list earlier. So I'm hopeful that we'll see it early to mid-April, which would put us right in line to have everything on time. Should there be an issue and the list is delayed, then certainly that would potentially back up that timeline. What we do recommend to the schools always is never get rid of your old materials
Right.
until the new ones are there. That way we have materials in the hands of students the first day.
Well, and I appreciate you explaining that because over the last couple of years, of course, the first year with the math books was when all the new
Correct.
laws, everything went into place. And of course, it was a political, powder keg, I guess would be the best way
Sure.
to say it. But we didn't, students didn't get books. Some weren't even getting books until October or November of that
Correct.
year. But you're right, if we can still have the old books there, at least they're still getting something, so.
Correct.
But I just wanted you to explain that so the public could hear how the process works and how they can be involved in the process. But at the end of the day, our hands are tied based on what the state of Florida says and does and how all that works.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's correct.
We're on the state's timeline.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr.
All
Gore.
right, thank y'all.
All right. And our last presentation, Mr. Meyer, if you'd come forward. Just want Mr. Meyer to share just a little bit about cafetoriums. Every time we say cafetoriums, people think we're mispronouncing it.
They're still cafeterias.
Thank you, Mr. Chamber. Good morning. Yes, so cafetoriums, this is a little more exciting than HVAC updates. Let's get into what a cafetorium is. And it is what it sounds like it is. It's a hybrid space that's used as a cafeteria and an auditorium. So what does that mean? There's a large dining space where kids will have breakfast and lunch. But that space can also be used for school assemblies, concerts, performances. Similar to the multi-purpose buildings, this is a large enough space where classes could come in there and use that, depending if they needed a large space. Their STEM programs, PE could come inside when they're not eating. They are large buildings. They're over 14,000 square feet, and that compares to the multi-purpose buildings, which are 17,000. So the dining area is a little over 6,000 square feet, but the building contains more than just the dining space. So there's the kitchen, which the kitchen has larger serving lines. It's better equipped to serve our students. It has a stage. That's the auditorium portion of the building. There's a music classroom behind the stage, which most people may not be aware of, that the music being close to the stage and a large performance area, it's just suitable for those classes. It also has a teacher dining area, a lobby as you come into the building with some gang restrooms. There's a PE restroom, which the building is oriented where the PE students that are out at PE could use this restroom, and the coach has some space for storage as well. So as we get into some of the pictures, it'll make a little more sense. Edwin's was the first cafetorium to start. It's the furthest along. So most of these pictures are just of Edwin's, but you can see the size of the building there on my left, the picture on the left, that's looking east to west, and you see Edwin's School in between those trees, and you can see Fort Walton Beach High School in the distance there, and the field, their turf field up on the left. So when you compare that to the other building, it's a large space. The other picture is oriented the other way, but the roof is on. They've bricked the outside. They've started some site work with additional parking, which you'll see in further pictures here. We were able to add car rider space, drop-off, pickup as we put these buildings in as well. This is a floor plan of these buildings. Each cafetorium is the exact same, except for Ruckle. Their kitchen is a little bit bigger because they're serving different lunches at that grade level. But at the bottom of this, there's the lobby as you walk in, and there's gang restrooms on each side. You go into a dining space that does have the capability to be split into two. The stage to the left in the music room, kitchen, teacher's lounge, PE, and there's a canopy there at the top, which as students are being dropped off and picked up, they'll be out of the weather. So that's the floor plan of what that looks like. Here's some interior pictures of Edwin's, and you can see drywall's gone up. They're starting to mud. Ceiling grids are in there, but it's a large open space. This is probably a week or so old, so they're further along than this, but that's the interior space. We got some drone footage of this building, and you can see the way this building is set up. They had very few parking spots on the side of their building when they were going into the front office. We've doubled that. The car rider line, you can see right in front of the canopy there, and their PE will be in the back side of that building, which we'll have to do some site work and some sod and some new playground equipment. But you can see just the size and what a difference this building's going to make for these campuses. So that's from the south side looking north. Metal roof.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see a connection from the main building.
It's coming. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. That's a great, so there'll be a
Okay.
canopy and sidewalks that are
Good,
connecting
good,
the
'cause
the old
I'm
canopy.
thinking rainy day and
It
I'm trying to
is,
get
it
over.
is, yes.
Okay,
That'll be
okay.
one of the last things, right there in between the buildings. there's gonna
Right,
be a
okay.
connect- that's-
With that
yeah, great
clay.
point.
Good. Well, hopefully they'll put some
Hang on,
grass there.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
Sidewalk.
So here's a couple other pictures of the other cafetoriums, but this is a projected timeline of what we're looking at as these are finishing up. So Edwin's is projected to be the first, which is June. It could be a little sooner, but we're saying June of this year. And then Wright, a month behind that. Ruckel, as we go into next school year, about August. Palouse, Shalimar, and Bob Sykes as we go into the fall. So they're falling into line, and I know these schools are excited, just like the high schools with the multipurpose building. The ribbon cutting, Mr. Chambers, was phenomenal last week, so that was great to see those students and school get to use those, and these are right behind. So the second part of being able to put these on the campuses, or what are we going to do with the old cafeterias? And by no means is this an architect. This is a test fit. This is me just throwing in what seems to fit. The blue, light blue building is the old cafeteria with, at the bottom right, that's the front office area. It seems that we could fit 4 classrooms into the old space, with the kitchen still being able to use as potential offices or whatever we could. So that is the second part to these cafetoriums being built, that we'll have to go back into those spaces and convert those into usable space, and hopefully classrooms, to eliminate portables. So that's part of the plan.
Would we put restrooms in those? I
We
know you
could.
just
So
kind of
that-
did a sketch,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
that would
So-
be,
So yes, in their front office, this particular school is small, and it could use some restrooms and additional office space, so.
with the little ones, it sure is nice. You can keep them in class and they're not running back
That's
and
right.
forth
It is.
to a restroom.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yes.
have, your wife, I'm sure, tells
Oh,
you.
all the time.
Mr. Meyer, real quick,
Yes,
so I appreciate the fact that I get asked all the time about, people see these new buildings going up and they want to know, what are we going to do with the other buildings? And of course, turning them into classrooms is great, because I think Edwin's probably has, 6 portables, if I'm not mistaken. And if you've ever been through Edwin's campus, for those that it's a very compressed school, very compressed. So this will help open up a lot of those, the campus a little bit with those students who are on those portables. But another question I get asked too is, why were these schools selected? And I can speak for Bob Sykes, and I know all of us other board members can speak for our other schools, but schools like Plough and Wright, I mean, these are very small cafeterias, and Bob Sykes has, I think, a population of 800 students, and trying to get all of those kids into that tiny little lunchroom, this is going to be a game changer for them. So, but I do appreciate the fact that you're showing at least a sketch of what those old cafeterias can turn into, and help us with our goal of eliminating the portables. So.
Yes, sir. Great point. Those small cafeterias are difficult as that student population has grown, and as they're over capacity, those lunch periods are strung out 2 or 3 hours. So this will help, absolutely. So.
Also, another idea, since you're asking for ideas. I know years ago, our offices for speech, OT, PT, and all that, we had to give up because of class size. So I know those individuals are scrambling, trying to find space to work with the students. So if we could get back maybe some office space, you're shaking like you've already
Yes,
thought
ma'am.
about that?
We've had those
Because they have-
conversations.
Okay,
Yeah,
because they
we-
really
they-
had to
we're-
scramble
We're
and,
working with each school and the principal and administrators.
Okay.
We have a pre-GMP in place now where we're starting to get ideas from them before we take it to the architects. Each school, absolutely, classrooms, itinerant space, front office space, potentially nurses' rooms as well. So
Perfect.
we're having those conversations with each of the schools.
good.
And I just want to highlight, I know we're talking about it kind of generally right now. Go back one slide. And so right here, for the purposes of this presentation today, conceptually, Mr. Meyer's showing where some classrooms can go. But specifically, they're having very detailed conversations in the background about what's going on not only at Edwin's. Go back to the slide where the others are. So you can see those are the schools there. And I love the fact that Mr. Bryant brought up the portables, because we have a very specific portable reduction program that we're starting. We've already eliminated some, such as over at Elliott Point, for example, Laura Hill, for
Silver
example,
Sands.
Silver Sands, for example. So I very much appreciate you saying that. You saw some of the pictures, the number of portables that were at Edwin's, so we'll be able to reduce those. Now, Edwin's, you look at capacity, it's not necessarily when we add those classrooms in the cafeteria that we necessarily add capacity. We're eliminating the portable, so I think that's important. And then when you look here at the projected timeline, just kind of remind us, what was the timeline originally?
So we are about 6 months ahead of schedule. So it was going into next spring, so we're going to be well before that projected timeline.
Excellent.
And we still rent some of those portables, correct?
Not that I'm aware of. I think we
Okay,
own
so we've
all-
bought those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All
So a
right.
quick question, if I might. So when we vacate a front office and we renovate it into usable space, which is wonderful, thank you for that, is that included in our capital funds, or is that being done in-house or with our own labor and materials, or how's that working?
The front office that we've already done with the single point of entry? Is that what you're talking about?
No, these new ones that, when we vacate an area and then we reconfigure it into more classrooms.
So going into the old cafeteria, that would be half-cent sales tax, but if we're touching the front office, that would be our capital dollars.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Nice job.
And that's all I have, ma'am.
Oh, okay, great, good stuff, all good stuff. All right, let's go down to 13, section 13, board members' announcement and requests. And on 13.1, board members, I want to remind you that you need to submit your, the Bruner Award and other ballots tonight to Mary here, so if you'll please bring those. And then let's hear from our board members, different things you have to say. Ms. Gardner, would you like to start today?
you.
And
Yes, and just to kind of add on to what Mr. Chambers said, the event at Fort Walton Beach High School last week was extremely nice. The principal, Lindsay Smith, did a fabulous job, and I know that was Mr. Sposky's baby. He is his vision, and what a wonderful vision it was. It was so great to see the pride. You mentioned the community that was out there, the pride, L3, that we've worked so closely with, that are doing these projects, to see those individuals, and Joel Linder just beaming as if that was just their own house. They really are taking a very personal interest in these. I was telling Miss Ivanchek, we were clapping when they were doing the school song, and
yes, we were.
we were clapping.
Stood up for the
Stood
school
up and
song.
clapped, and
And
I
also, Miss Ivanchek had on a red jacket.
I noted that, I
Okay.
noted,
Okay.
and
I know, it was,
Mr. Bryant, they're everywhere. I'll bring you one. But it was so exciting that
For the
I
cause, yeah.
was looking for my pom-poms to get out there and to,
yeah, we stood up for the
to-
school song. That's
Really, and they did a very nice job, and the excitement, and again, the pride, even with the students that were there. I did have a couple of questions, of course, from when people see things out on social media. I just want to reassure everybody that, as Mr. Meyer said earlier, we are still working on those HVAC systems. We are still working on the roof. Mr. Chambers reminded us, we were talking with some individuals, that the HVAC at Fort Walton Beach High School, I believe you said, was on a 10-year plan, and we have, do you want to, you were going to say something?
It was on a 10-year
Right, it
plan,
was-
and now we have substantially improved and reduced that timeline, but a lot of work has happened at Fort Walton Beach in terms of the HVAC system and, as you know, the
roofing.
roofs as well.
The complete roof. And, I just shared with people, we don't do ribbon cuttings for when a roof is complete or when the HVAC is done, but I guarantee them that is a priority, actually. So, again, what a wonderful event that was. And I like watching the students and how proud when they walked, because I think that was the first time they walked in there. And I've worked at a school that didn't have a multi-purpose room, but then we gained a multi-purpose room, and it's life-changing. And if you don't work in a school, you don't really understand how individuals are, I hate to say fighting, but kind of arguing over, we have this space, but we need this space, but then it starts raining, and the PE department needs to come in, then everything gets bumped along. So these multi-purpose rooms are greatly needed for many, many different things. And all because you see maybe basketball goals on the end of it, doesn't mean that's the only thing that it's probably the last thing it's going to be used for. So I'm just so proud that of Fort Walton, what they've accomplished. I'm looking forward to the other multi-purpose rooms that are going to be coming up, and I know they're going to be just as wonderful as Fort Walton's because of what L3 and Joel and his team have done. And I probably left something out right there, but the CTE month, I'm going to wait, like I said, until this evening, and I'll share a little bit more information with that. And with that, I'll pass it on.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Bryant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, just saying thank you. You did a wonderful job this morning
Excellent.
leading
Oh,
us.
Thank
So,
you, I appreciate that.
Coming out of the bullpen, I've done that before when I was vice chair, so I know how you felt the first time you come out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
She had it.
But
She-
you pitched a perfect inning. So
Thank
You did.
I appreciate that.
So
No,
first,
don't
haven't
blow it.
adjourned yet.
You haven't, I was going to say, hang on.
and you still have till tonight too. So.
Yes.
But just wanted to say, like I said, thank you for that. But I got back from Dallas, Texas last night about 7 o'clock, and I will tell you, I went home and went pretty much right to sleep because I was wore out from this conference that I went to called the Consortium of State School Boards Association. And being the incoming president for the Florida School Boards Association, I was part of the delegation that got to go to this national conference. We are a charter member of that. It was formed in lieu of the National School Boards Association, which for me, I was glad that we finally got out of that organization. This organization is more focus-driven on students, not necessarily on political divides. So it was a great conference. Like I said, I got there on Wednesday, and from Wednesday till Sunday afternoon, it was nonstop. A lot of great speakers that were there, a lot of great information. You get to talk to school board members, and also there was some superintendents and other staff that were there. I did meet a superintendent from Illinois, Mr. Chambers. You would be kind of curious how Illinois works. He only has 2 high schools. He is the superintendent of 2 high schools. And but Illinois also has over 1,000 school districts. So Florida is actually the only state in the union that has 67 counties and 67 school districts. So we are actually the smallest state in the organization, believe it or not, even though we have the 3rd highest population and the top like 4 or 5 of the top 10 school districts in the entire country. But being from Florida, had a lot of people come up and like put their hand on you saying we bless you and pray for you and all that. But, it gives me an opportunity
really.
to talk about our school district and all the great things that we were doing. There was a dance troupe there that performed for the last session yesterday. They're from Hot Springs, Arkansas. And after they performed, they made their way out. So on my way to the airport, I went to, if any of y'all heard In-N-Out Burger, I made my way to In-N-Out Burger, and they happened to be there. And I got a chance to talk to the teacher that was there and explain to her, that Okaloosa County, we actually have a dance academy. And she was just like, you can see a little tear come out of her eye, because even though her district is behind it, they don't have that dedicated facility. Even though they do support her in different ways, she would love to be able to have that partnership. So, it gives you an opportunity to, even though the stigma is that Florida is like, the worst place for education, in reality, I tell people all the time, it's you got to go and visit the schools in our state and see all the great things that are going on, and especially in Okaloosa County. So, and when they hear that, they go, okay, maybe it's, maybe we ought to quit hearing what we see on the news and all that, because I said, what you see and hear is not what's truly going on in our schools. We have a lot of great educators, a lot of great administrators, a lot of great support that help make our schools the schools that they are. And it is a challenge, and we've talked about this, that we have to sell our school district just like any business would, to highlight all the great things. And one of the things that we did today is, appreciate all the information that we have out. Some school boards don't do these they basically come in and do their thing and they're done. And they, when I talked to them about how we do our workshops and things like that, they were like, wow, that's pretty good. We should be doing that. But I also learned a lot from them too. So it was a great conference. Mr. Chambers, I tried to get a meeting with Jerry Jones just to kind of go over next year's Dallas Cowboys things, but he didn't want to talk to me. So, but I will just tell you that it was an honor to represent our school district and our state at this conference. And I will have some more information to pass to my fellow board members as I collect it and put everything together. But again, thank you for the opportunity to serve. And tonight I'll have a little bit more on my school zone, some of the things that are happening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We appreciate you going and representing us. You do a great job, and that's wonderful. Dr. Kelly?
Thank you, Ms. Ivanchik. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your comments, Mr. Bryant, about how other states work. In my consulting, I've had opportunity to be in, particularly Colorado and Pennsylvania come to mind when you talk about the configuration of districts and the superintendents and how they have so fewer number of schools in their district. But Florida is unique, and unique in many positive ways, so I'm very grateful for that. And echoing what Mr. Chambers said earlier, it was indeed a pleasure to be at the Science Fair Awards and to hear the students' presentations and how they did and their curiosity about how the world works and about how they can work in their future and fuel their passion and their love of science and math to actually go into a career, and a career that will enhance our lives in the future. So all those were just fascinating to me. So we certainly do appreciate Ms. Cook for her organization of that event and all the science teachers out there who contributed to the success of their students that culminated in that night's awards. I'll say, too, from Niceville High School, Niceville's boys soccer is headed to the Final Four this week, this Wednesday, I believe, at Stetson University. So we wish them well on that trip, and we know that they'll bring home a proud situation to share with us. No matter how they do, they'll represent Okaloosa County well. And along with that, the incoming freshman parent night is this week for Niceville High School students, Thursday night, 6 p.m. in the Niceville High School auditorium. And you know, if you've been a former principal, like several of us have been, that's coupled then with their administration conducting registration events at their feeder pattern schools. So that's all happening this week. Very exciting in the world of school here locally. And then I'll just also add that it is Dr. Seuss Week, and a week we all enjoy participating in, that is part of Read Across America events, an initiative created by the National Education Association to encourage reading and to foster the understanding of the importance of that skill as a lifelong commitment to learning. And we know that locally, March the 1st will be Read Across America Day here, and so a lot of us may be reading that day if we're not out of pocket. It is also, and I'll conclude with this today, it is also National Public Schools Week, and in that week we celebrate all that is positive about public schools, and particularly we can hearken our own acknowledgments as to the outstanding work that our educators do here locally. And that's all I have, Ms.
Okay,
Magic.
thank you. Yes, it's great to be in public schools, isn't it? All right, I do have a couple items. I'd like to say, the Sheriff Aiden, Okaloosa County Sheriff Aiden, and his office gives several awards to school resource officers, and I'm excited because these officers I particularly know with the schools that I represent. The School Resource Officer Outstanding Performer of the Year is Will Foster at Florosa Elementary, and I can tell you that Deputy Foster those children love him, and he does a great job there. And then Deputy Matt Christmas and Deputy Patrick Legions at Baker School were recently given commendations for their actions back with that November 3rd incident. Unfortunately, we had at the school, but they did some great things to make sure everyone was safe there, so that's very exciting. And yes, it is Dr. Seuss Week, and one of your favorite board members may be the Cat in the Hat this
I
Friday.
was going to ask you that, but I
as,
didn't want to
I
put you
get
on the
out.
spot.
I keep telling them the cat's getting old, but they keep calling her back, so I'll do that. Okay. All right, so let's move on down to 14, public comment, where we'll have members of the public desiring to address the board with general comments, what we call the yellow card. At that time, we won't know till at that. We do have public hearing tonight, 15 at 6:15. We have two items. 15.1 is a public hearing for adoption of revised school board policy 6-34 on retirement, presented by Dr. Hale.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chambers, I apologize, but would it be all right if Dr. Hale came up and just kind of explained this? Because I know this is something that has, I think is going to be a positive thing for employees moving forward.
Yes, sir. This adjustment to the retirement policy is just in response to the extended drop portion that the legislature did in the last session and the way that we pay that out in those extended years. It's not changing anything other than that.
Right, which is state statute.
Correct.
Right, okay, thank you.
So do individuals have to still sit out a year? That's been changed?
I believe that's under discussion, but it hasn't been changed.
It
Okay,
it
hasn't
has
been
not.
changed yet.
It's still one of those things.
And that's
Still
a
fight- they're still talking about it in
question
the
that's
legislature.
being asked a lot.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, then 15.2, public hearing for adoption of Resolution 24-04, approving the proposed contract for purchase and sale agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and Scott Unlimited LLC, Inc., for a parcel of real property located at 5749 John Givens Road, Crestview, Florida, presented by Dr. Smith. So those will be the two public hearings tonight. I did want to please mention something I did, and I got caught up on the Dr. Seuss thing, and I did want to mention something on a sad note, that we have lost and need to send our condolences to the family of Jenny Morgan. Dr. Morgan was a longtime educator in our district and unfortunately succumbed to injuries sustained in a car accident a couple weeks ago, along with her husband, who was, she was the principal at Ruckel, also had some, I think, district positions, and her husband was the principal at Niceville High School. So, so sorry to hear that situation, and our condolences go out to the Morgan family.
And Ms. Evanchik, with you saying that, which I appreciate very much, and I would say to the Morgan family, I could think back, Mrs. Morgan, Dr. Morgan hired me. She was my first principal, and you talk about someone who set the example of always do what's right for students. and that was what she constantly talked about. She was a principal then who 100% could be a principal today. She was a instructional leader. She was someone who her faculty and staff would fight for, and always just, again, had a heart for kids and her faculty and staff. It's a big loss to, I think, to those of us in the educational profession, but also obviously to the Niceville area, and just definitely condolences go out to Dr. Morgan, her husband.
Thank you for that. Anybody else on that? So before we adjourn, I want to ask if anyone else has any comments. Ms. Appleberg? Okay. Mr. Strong? Okay. Anybody else from the staff? Okay. Then this workshop is adjourned.